Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. And getting closer to Christmas, it's the 21st today. I have noticed I'm not hearing Happy Holidays as much anymore. I'm starting to hear Merry Christmas more, and I'm happy about that. Glad more people are focusing on the fact that it is Christmas. A friend of mine suggested that I discuss the three wise men that came to see baby Jesus. So I'm gonna look at what I was able to find on the internet and kind of summarize what they said. The wise men and the star. When did the event take place? The actual journey of these wise men could easily have taken a long time. It would appear from Matthew 2:7 that the star which the wise men had seen had appeared at the moment of Jesus' birth, but the wise men had arrived after the birth. If they saw the star at the moment of Jesus' birth, it would have taken at least a few months for the wise men to arrive. Who were the wise men? The Greek word for the wise men is magi. It is from this word that we get the word magician. At that time, the boundary between those who attempted to perform occult experiments and those who performed legitimate science would have been blurred. For example, early chemists called alchemists tried to change one substance into another, usually gold, of all sorts of methods, including incantations, but also including methods that we recognize today as experimental chemistry. Similarly, these magicians could probably be referred to as scientists in a broader sort of way. As they came from the east, they could have been associated with the magicians mentioned in Daniel. In Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar is speaking of people who are referred to as magicians, astrologers, and wise men. These could very well be the same group of people. There is some additional evidence of this below. Before continuing our investigation into these wise men, who these wise men are, we should briefly comment on how many there were. In fact, we do not know how many there were. The word magi is plural, so there must have been at least two. However, there could have been more. The legend was that there were three, but that, and what we know their names, is just a legend. The idea of three wise men had been developed because there were three types of gifts presented to the wise men by Jesus. Matthew 2:11. In Daniel 2, the wise men were unable to tell King Nebuchadnezzar his dream before attempting to interpret it. The king therefore threatened to have them all put to death. Daniel 2:12. Indeed, it would appear that the order to kill the wise men already begun. Daniel 2:13, when Daniel heard of it. Daniel and his companions were already counted among the wise men because they had been trained as such and interviewed for inclusion in the ranks of the wise men. Daniel 1:18-20. Daniel's inclusion among the wise men shows that the wise men were not necessarily occultists as Daniel and his companions, except their inclusion, even though they refused to eat the meat sacrificed to idols in Daniel 1. When Daniel told the king his dream and its interpretation, he made clear that he was not able to do this because of his own wisdom, and that the wise men had been correct in stating that no man could do what the king had asked. Instead, Daniel gave glory to God, stating that he could only do this amazing thing because God had revealed the dream and interpretation to him. At the end of Daniel 2, we read that Daniel was the chief administrator over the wise men who presumably were to be spared. How did the wise men know the significance of the star? If we are right about the identity of the wise men, this gives us a clue as to why they would know about the star. The star is mentioned in Numbers 24 and is prophesied by an unusual character named Balaam. Balaam seems to have been a sort of a traveling soothsayer, and as such was probably sort of an ancestor to the Babylonian wise men of Daniel's time. He was based at Pethor, which is not only near the river Euphrates, Numbers 22:5, but also close to Babylon. Balaam was contracted by Balak to curse the Israelites. Balak was the king of Moab at the time, and the Israelites were moving through Moabite territory as part of their long sojourn to the Promised Land. The Israelites were not able to settle in Moab, so the Israelites and enable them to go their way. Like the Edomites and Amorites, the Moabites were to disobey God, but they were to do so by contracting this magician named Balaam. The account of what happened to Balaam, how he was commissioned, how he was warned about his behavior by God, how God rebuked him by making his donkey talk, and how his every attempt to curse the Israelites simply led to them being blessed can be found in Numbers 22 through 24. In one of Balaam's attempts to curse the Israelites, he ended up uttering his prophecy, I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come to Jacob, out of Jacob. A scepter shall rise out of Israel, and batter the brow of Moab, and destroy all the sons of tumult. Numbers 24:17. In one sense, the prophecy applies to Israel itself, particularly with reference to David's conquest of the Moabites, 2 Samuel 8:2. However, the concept of scepter, a symbol of kingship, refers not only to David, but to David's greater son, and refers back to Genesis. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of people. Genesis 49:10. The passage from Genesis refers to the coming Messiah to be descended from Judah. So by inference, we can suggest that Numbers 24:17 also refers to the coming Messiah. If Balaam is the ancestor of the wise men of Babylon, then it's likely that these wise men knew about Balaam's oracle. It would also make sense that Daniel could have spoken to them about this, especially as Daniel himself prophesies much about the Messiah, Daniel 9:25-26. Evidence for this link between Daniel's wise men and Balaam is underlined by reference to what the wise men did not know, as well as what they did. They knew about Balaam's Messiah prophecy and possibly Daniel, but not that of Micah. But you, Bethlehem, through you along the 1,000 clans of Judah, yet of you shall come forth to me the one to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth are from of old, from everlasting. Micah 5:2. I actually remember reading something similar to that in church in a Christmas program in Okinawa, Faith Lutheran Church, quite a while back. The writing was a little different. If they had known about Micah, they would have never traveled to Jerusalem, proceeding instead directly to Bethlehem. After that, they all understood the significance of Numbers 24 and possibly Genesis 49. They would certainly have known that what Micah was talking about, but instead, they had to be told about this by the chief priests and scribes in Jerusalem, especially as the chief priests coupled Micah 5:2 with a reference to Genesis 49:10 and adapted in 2 Samuel 5:2. One final piece of evidence from this Babylonian wise men connection is the implication that the wise men were looking for the star. Why were they looking for Messiah's star at that particular period of time, or had they been looking for such a star for centuries? The latter seems unlikely. If these wise men were the Babylonian wise men formerly led by Daniel, they were probably aware of Daniel's prophecies, including Daniel's reference to the timing of the coming of the Messiah in Daniel 9. What was the star? We are first told by the wise men, we have seen his star in the east. The wise men knew that this was not just any star, it was his star. It was the star of the Messiah. This also indicates that they knew the prophecies in Numbers 24 and Genesis 49, but where did the star appear? There is actually a great deal of ambiguity in the phrase star in the east. This could mean that they saw the star in the western sky while they were still in the east, i.e. Babylon, or could mean that the star had appeared in the east. The word for the east actually means a rising of light, and only means east by implication. This could imply that the phrase is referring to the Messiah as the morning star. This would fit, for example, with what Peter says in 2 Peter 1:19, and with Jesus' own declaration of himself in Revelation 22:16. The morning star is also reference to the planet Venus when it appears in the morning, but the star Messiah cannot be Venus or any other planet for reasons outlined below. This star is not an astronomical object. Let us explain what this star actually did. The star appeared at the moment of Jesus' birth, but was visible to the wise men in Babylon. If they saw the star over Israel, it would indicate that the star was not astronomical, because stars do not rise in the west. They rise in the east. If it rose in the east, then it must have been special, because stargazers like those wise men would have had difficulty recognizing the planet Venus. Traditional images show the wise men traveling over the desert, following a star. However, Matthew 2 does not say that they followed the star to Israel. It would, in fact, appear from their reaction that the star newly appeared in Matthew 2:9. And behold, the star which had been seen in the east went before him, How could a star in the universe go before the wise men? It could not. Bethlehem is just south of Jerusalem. Stars do not move south, they also move west. Stars do not settle over houses as this one did. In fact, the Greek word, which has been translated as aster, implies something this is strewn. What could be more moved easily from east to west, if need be, appearing as strewn light. A good candidate for this phenomenon would be the pillar of fire. Moreover, you led them by day with a cloudy pillar, and by night with a power of fire, to give them light on the road which they should travel. Nehemiah 9:12. To summarize this, the wise men reached Bethlehem about 2 years after the birth of Jesus. Mary and Joseph were now in a house, not the stable. There could not have been any number of wise men. There could have been any number of wise men, and they were probably representatives of the wise men of Babylon. They were aware of the promised Messiah from their former leader Daniel and from the oracle of their founder Balaam. Under Daniel's leadership and influence, many of them had no doubt from their paganism to the worship of the true God. They were unaware, however, that the Messiah was to be born in Bethlehem, because Micah's prophecy was received many years later and many miles back in Israel. The intention was to seek the Messiah in order to worship him. They knew to make their journey because of the appearance of the Shekinah glory of God. The same pillar of fire led them to Jerusalem, to the house of Bethlehem. Herod's response was to seek to destroy the Messiah by any means possible. Put this into this context, we can see the events of Matthew 2 are even more significant in the traditional Christmas card scene. And in worshiping the Messiah, the wise men made a prophecy of their own in their choice of gifts. Gold, a gift for a king. Frankincense, this is obviously an incense, the burning of which represents prayer. It is used by priests and indicates the priestly nature of the Messiah. Myrrh, a fragrant perfume used in embalming bodies. The inclusion of this gift can be seen as prophetic in the death of the Messiah. The three gifts together also underline the Messiah's offices as prophet, priest, and king. One response should therefore be that the wise men themselves to worship the Messiah Jesus Christ, our prophet, our priest, our king. And that's what I was basically able to get on the wise men. I looked some stuff on the internet and read from part of this article on the internet. And like I said, I am glad to hear a Merry Christmas more often now, and I hope everybody that watches this, that, and the other has a Merry Christmas, safe Christmas. Like I've said before, if you must drink, do not drive. Don't turn Christmas into a tragedy for somebody else. That's actually happened to a friend of mine's father, who was a victim of a drunken driver on the 23rd of December one year. That terrible tragedy for the family. I remember hearing about it on the radio on the way to work on the 24th. Quite a eye-opening experience hearing that early in the morning. And I hope this is a good Christmas for you. Like, subscribe. Want to get more subscribers to this, that, and the other. Looking for suggestions on how I can make this show better, what you'd like to see, how I can receive more subscribers. And I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I want to thank the people that have given me suggestions on future shows to do. And as always, thanks for watching.